Good day, everyone. My name is Jomar Janel Paroan, and today I will be reporting about a Windows form control called Monthcalendar. To start, let's define what a month calendar is. Month calendar control is referred as a graphical interface that is widely used to modify and set date information based on your requirements. Different from datetime picker, month calendar control gives you a permission to select date only, but it gives you a flexibility of selecting range of dates. In other words, it's just a calendar that you use to select from a wide range of dates. Think of it as the calendar you have in your laptop or your phone, as it functions basically just like it. When do we actually use the month calendar control? It is used for accessing, selecting, and displaying dates in your application such as birthdays, schedules, etc. For example, when you fill up a personal information form, you can use the month calendar control for the user to easily access or to select the appropriate date. So now let's get to the actual designing and coding of the month calendar control. First is you need to open an IDE for C Sharp, Visual Studio, or Sharp Develop, and then you need to create a Windows Form app, and then you need to go to the design, and then you need to go to view, and then the tools. And then you need to drag down the Windows form, and then you have your form, main form basically. Next is you need to drag the important controls for this code. So you need a text box, a month calendar, a picture box for a calendar icon if necessary. So this is a text box, this is the picture box for the icon, and this is the month calendar itself. So let's go to the properties of month calendar. So the first property is the name property. It defines the specific name of the control that is used to access it in the code. Month calendar 1 is the default name. So let's go to the actual IDE. So the name property is located here. It says month calendar 1. Next is the back color property. It's used to change just the background color of the control. Next is the color. It is used to display text within a month. And here is the back color. You can choose from an array of choices. And then you have for color. Next, selection range. Selection range is widely used property which defines the selected range of dates in the control. And then the selection start property, and then the selection end property. The selection start specifies the start date, while the selection end specifies the end date of the selected range of dates. So here, for example, we have the code selection start and selection end and the selection range. So if we look at the source code for this, we have a string, we have a variable for the start date, and this is month calendar 1 selection start to string. You have this method when you double click the calendar control. And then you have the end date, and then you have this as month calendar selection and to string, and then to start. Just basically encapsulates or captures what you select or the date you selected in the calendar. And then you show it to the text box 1, text box 2, which is here, text box 1, text box 2. And then text box 3 and text box 4 are just the same, but it's the range. So when we actually run this, so if we pick, say, like 3, the selection start is 3. We don't have a selection end yet because we didn't select any range. So if we say like 3 to 10, so the selection start is 3 and then the selection end is 10 because you drag and then you select like this. So you move the cursor around the calendar and then you select. And then you can see that the selection start is basically the same as here, and then the selection end is basically the same as here, because selection start and selection end are both properties of the selection range. Here is the sample code that we have earlier. And then the other properties of the month calendar control provides option in which you choose the default day that a week begins in your calendar. By default, Sunday is selected as the start of the week and Saturday is the last day. So you can see it here. First of the week, you need to click on the calendar first, and then first day of the week, it says Sunday because Sunday is the first day of the week here. But if we change it to like say Friday, the first first day of the week here is Friday, and then so on and so forth. But if you say default, the default one is Sunday, and the last one is Saturday. Next property, we have show today's circle. So show today's circle property is used to encircle the current date in your calendar. By default, the value of this property is set as true. You can set it to false if you want to remove the circle around the current date. So the current date today is April 23, and then you have here the circle. But if we say show today's circle, you can find it here. Show today's circle. If we set it to false, then it will have no circle or the box here. But if we say, let's say true, it basically has the line. It's not necessarily a circle, but it is a line. And then the next property is the show date. Show date displays the current date at the bottom of the calendar. If its value is set as true, setting the value to false will disappear the date at the bottom of the calendar here. So this is the show date property. But if we set it to say like false, the bottom date will now disappear, but the default is true. Then the next property that we have is the maximum date and minimum date. The maximum date period tells us the maximum value for date for the calendar, while the minimum date determines the minimum valid date for the calendar. You can see it here. The maximum date, where's the maximum date is December 31, 9,998. And you can basically choose from a wide range of choices what your max range of calendar is, but the default is this, and then the minimum date is 1753. And then you have the next property, which is the calendar dimensions. The calendar dimensions just determines the number of months in a single grid. So the default is set to 1 by 1, but you can change it to 1 by 2. So it shows 2 months, 1 to 3, it shows 3 months, and so forth. The next one is today date, which is just determines the current date that it captures from the system. Next is the show week numbers, which basically can show week in the calendar. So by default, this is set as false, but if you set this as true, you can have the number of the week beside each week of the calendar. And then the last is the bolded dates. It is a very important property that is used to highlight some dates of the calendar. Example, you have to bold the date of your birthday. Then you can activate, or you can set this date to true for a calendar date, so that you can highlight the date, which is your birthday. That's basically everything that month calendar functions as. So it functions just like a calendar, like a normal calendar, but in Windows form. So thank you for listening. And here are my references for this report.